This episode is proudly brought to you by Lululemon. Athleisure brand Lululemon and Movember proudly unite for the third year of their partnership to improve men's well-being through movement, mindfulness and connection. Check out Lululemon's Movember product collection at lululemon.com.au.
Your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place? Under cover of my skin.
Welcome to episode 264 of the Inside Running Podcast. We have a huge show for you this week. There are a couple of state 5,000 metre champs and NCAA cross-country results to discuss. Training Talk is back, and we have a heavy hitter of Australian and world athletics on the show to review his year. But before all that, welcome to my co-host and 2019 World Championship marathoner, Julian the Big the Big Moose Spence. How are you, Moose?
I'm good, mate. I tell you what, it's anyone within 50 metres of me that mentions Doha at the moment, they're in for a ride.
Well, do you want to give us the story of Big Mouse instead of Big Moose?
I'm not sure about that one. I think that was a spelling mistake. Take Big Mouse though. I don't mind Mouse.
I'll fill the listeners in. So Moose was running around the 10 on, I think it was Friday morning with Zach and Newman, and he got recognised and stopped and asked for a selfie, and then when the guy put it up on Instagram, he said, bumped into Big Mouse at the tan. So
I think maybe there's another person out there called Mouse, and he just got me mixed up.
I can't wait until people on Strava start calling Moose Fartlek Mouse Fartlek. It's going to happen for sure.
No, it was good. Like the World Cup's on, Doha, Qatar, everyone complaining about it. Love it.
Yep. So big guest. I want to ask him how many selfies he's had in the last week, because I know you're a bit up and about being asked for that selfie. But before we introduce our guest for tonight, I've got a trivia question for you, Moose. Before I was married, we used to go to pub trivia quite a lot, and so I thought, question for this week: how many people in history have run sub 3:30 for 1,500, but also sub 7:30 for 3K and sub 13 minutes for 5K?
How many people?
And bonus points if you can name them all.
I'm going to say 5 people. That's my guess. And I'm going to start off with Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Yep, that's one.
Hisham El Garouge.
2.
Syed Awita.
Very good.
He's on the list.
He's on the list. Yep.
Mohammed Katir.
Yep.
Oh,
that's 4.
You've helped. They're my guesses. I didn't guess the last one, which you gave it away before. Bernard. Oh, a couple more. Bernard Lagat.
Yep.
And the last one, he might be joining us tonight.
Yeah, who's the other one?
Stewy McSweyn, the big dog from King Island. Yep,
Stewy's on the list. So there was actually 9. So the ones that we missed were Daniel Coman, the 3,000 metre world record holder. Ali Said Sief, remember him? I think he's the Algerian. He was more sort of my era.
Is he a steepler?
No, don't think so. And then the other one is Augustine Chogi. So 9 people in history to have achieved that feat. One of the guys on the list is joining us tonight. He's also won the prestigious Dream Mile in Oslo in 2021, finished 7th at last year's Olympics, and is the current Australian 1,500 metre and 3,000 metre record holder. Welcome back to the Inside Running Podcast, Stewy McSweyn.
No, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on, boys. Excited to be on with you guys.
Mate, that's a select group. I know that tweet came out after you broke 13 minutes for 5K. When you see that list of people and you're part of it, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, obviously, when you do see those stats, obviously they can put stats together for anything. But I think, to have my name amongst those guys is a huge honor. But I think, obviously I'm a lot worse than pretty much all the guys on the list. So it is cool to be on. But I think, there's a lot of guys a lot better than me on there.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for giving up some time. The last time we had you on was, started January. Moose and I both had COVID, and we're talking about, the year to come, which was World Champs and Comm Games. So what I thought we might do before you recap your training week is just do a bit of a year in review. We don't hear from you a lot on other podcasts, so I think it'd be a good opportunity for our listeners to basically hear how your year went. So what we've done is broken it down into sort of 4 different sections. So we'll give a bit of a recap of what happened during that period and then ask you sort of some questions about it, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
All right. So the first part of the year was sort of between March and May. Wasn't a great period for you. You pulled out of the Box Hill Burn 5,000 metres on the 8th of March, and then you started your Diamond League series with a 3:48. 1,500 in Doha and a 3:44 in Birmingham. So that was all about mid-May. We'd heard reports that, you'd had COVID, or that it was a result of having the COVID booster too close to having COVID. What was happening during that period, and what was the actual diagnosis?
Yeah, so obviously that first part of the year was a pretty challenging time. Not only the physical side, but the mental side was pretty hard as well. So ultimately, as you mentioned, that Box Hill 5K, I DNF'd. I think it was the first race in Opens I've DNF'd, so not how you want to kickstart a season. And then obviously battled through the early Diamond League races as well. But ultimately, I think I had COVID, and then I got the booster not long after, because I was trying to be able to go to Serbia for the World Indoor Championships, and you needed to be triple vaxxed by that point. So I'm still not a little bit up in the air what caused it, but ultimately I battled for a fair few months trying to kind of shake the repercussions of it all.
Yeah, and during that period, we know that your races weren't great, but did training indicate that you would race as poorly as you did?
I think ultimately I wasn't training as well as I normally do. I feel like I've done it for enough years now. You kind of get a decent idea of the kind of shape you're in, but I think in training you're never really hitting the real high intensity stuff. So you kind of can maybe bluff it a little bit more than when you're in races. There's no bluffing. You're out there giving it 100%. So it wasn't until I was on the start line that I was kind of finding out I'd get a lap in and be pretty much done. I'd be struggling to breathe. My body would be shutting down. So, which is not a nice feeling, because mentally it's hard going into races knowing that you're unsure of whether you'll be able to ultimately run well in the race or even finish it. So, it wasn't a great period for a few months early on in the season, but I think, as we mentioned, any athlete, you're going to have your ups and downs, and you kind of got to just ride that wave and have faith that you'll hopefully at one point come out the other side.
Actually,
Stewy, because we don't really know much about all this long COVID stuff, was there some pretty serious worries that this could be a long-term thing at that time?
I think I'd be lying if I said I wasn't pretty worried that whole time. Not only athletics, I was kind of like, will I be able to run near my best again? Will I even be able to keep running? I was kind of up in the air, wasn't really sure what was going on. And then I think it's bigger than running. For me, it was kind of like, is it going to impact my health? Not only for maybe my future running career, but my life outside running as well. So I think that was the big worry, that I wasn't sure whether I'd ever fully bounce back, or just because there was no real evidence or data with how people would bounce back. I think it's a personal journey for everyone who has had those complications. So, there was definitely a lot of worries. And then finally, once I felt like I was able to turn it around, it was definitely, a pretty good feeling to know that hopefully I was kind of in a little bit of the clear.
So who made the call then to shut things down? So you've run 3:48 and then 3:44, and you might also want to touch on what those races felt like in terms of knowing that, because in both races, you pretty much still pushed the way that you normally do, go to the front, but then fade, so much that you you're running 3:44 and 3:48. So that wouldn't feel great. Was it you that then went, Nick, like I can't keep turning up and doing this? Or did Nick say, nah, we're shutting it down? Like, how did that all happen?
Yeah, it was probably a joint call in the end. I think I'm a pretty positive guy, so I was kind of just hoping it would finally turn around the race and I'd be kind of able to kind of get on a roll and start improving from there. But yeah, those first couple of races were pretty hard to be in, especially when you're watching races like I'm coming on the top bend when guys are who you're normally racing are finishing. So yeah, obviously I was battling something wasn't right, so we kind of had to decide whether I was going to shut down the season. I think I was probably a week or two away from shutting down my whole season and I was pretty close to actually missing World Champs as well, purely because I think when I did start coming good, I only had, I think, 6 or 7 weeks leading into World Champs to kind of train. So we shut it down, reset, and then I was lucky enough that I got some good medical advice and was able to rest, reset my body, and then kind of improve from that point, which was, like, in hindsight, obviously taking the rest and kind of resetting was the best thing to do.
Yeah. Over to you, Moose.
The medical advice you got, I reckon there's a few people in the position you're in right now, like struggling with whatever it is that's going on, but related to either the virus or the vaccine. But what was it? Like, what was the strong advice at the time?
The big thing for me was a lot of it was just the resetting. Like, obviously I was trying in the races and then in training a couple times a week, I was trying to still run hard. And I think just the level of fatigue I already had, I was kind of not recovering. So the doctor was pretty much, I obviously had all the tests done to see where my levels were at. It kind of didn't really indicate too much. But he's like, the best thing you can do right now is just take it easy, reset. Obviously I got some antibiotics as well to try and just clear out the body and kind of get it back going. Hopefully close to normal function. And then, yeah, obviously just the rest was the massive thing. I kind of just put everything into sleeping, recovering for those couple of weeks to see if I could turn my season around. And luckily, after those couple of weeks, I felt like I had a fair bit more energy and felt like I felt more normal when I was running compared to what I had previously for most of the season to that point.
Yeah, it's good that you did. You clearly did. So good team you've got around you.
Yeah, I think I was lucky. I think, as we mentioned in running, it's a pretty individual sport, but it is the team around you. And I was pretty lucky to have a good medical team through AA. Obviously Nick as well was. I think for us, it's only a season, and if it means we can skip a season and we're going to get better, we were going to do what we needed to try and hopefully get back on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
Moose, you're going to do I'll go. So you've touched on it a little bit, but by the end of June, you came good with a 7:31 3,000 metres, which put you fourth in the Stockholm Diamond League and was only 3 seconds off your national record. And then mid-July was World Champs, where you finished ninth, running a 3:33 in the final. Like, you've touched on the fact that you rest and recovered. After that 3:44 1,500 metres, did you take like 2 weeks of complete, like, no running at all, or did you just jog? Like, how did that those next couple of weeks look?
So, yeah, I had a couple of days off just to reset, and then it was kind of just easy running, but not even just easy jogging, like really easy jogging. So probably I'm not a big data man, but probably heart rate anywhere between like 115, 120 when I was jogging, just to make sure I was going absolutely easy. No heavy lifting in the gym or anything like that as well. Just trying to reduce any pressure you can on your body to try and, ultimately give me the best chance of resetting and trying to continue on the season if everything went well.
Yeah.
Go,
Moose.
Yeah. So I remember waking up after that 3K and just feeling like, oh yes, he's back. Like, he's okay. And I reckon there were a few sighs around the country, just like, old Stewy's back again. There were a few messages going out like, he's good, boys, we're all right. Must have been such a good feeling to know that, like, you're back on track.
Yeah, obviously that race was a massive relief because even I had definitely training had improved from what it previously had through the months leading in. But until you see that race result, you kind of still unsure how it's going to go. Obviously, that was probably the most nervous I've been for a race because it could have went either way. If it didn't go well, I was probably going back to Australia and skipping the remainder of the season. So, for it to go well was a good confidence and kind of open my eyes that the rest of the season was going to be possible, I think. And also for us, I think the environment we're in, you've got a lot of people telling you what to do. You've got you're kind of, the races are, a lot of people watch or whatever, so people have a lot to say about when you're not going well. It can be a tough sport. So to finally be able to turn it around was pretty nice.
Hey, Stewy, at what point in that 3K, because I'd imagine in the days and the hours leading up, you would have been pretty nervous going, is the same thing going to happen to what's happened in the previous 2 Diamond Leagues? At what point in that 3K did you feel like punching the air going, oh, I'm a different runner to what I was a couple of months ago?
Yeah, so I probably knew maybe 2 laps in. So I think we ran a 58 second first lap and then maybe 59 for the second one, and it felt pretty comfortable. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm on here, because in those 1500s, I'd get to 400 and felt like I'd run a marathon. So to get to those 2 laps feeling comfortable at that sub 2 minute pace through the first 800, I kind of was like, yeah, I think I'm going to be right for the rest of this race, and hopefully I can build off this race and put 3 or 4 good more weeks training leading to the World Champs.
So the World Champs, mate, you came 9th, 3:33. So obviously got to the final, but probably not as fit as you wanted to be on the start line.
Yeah, I think for me, making the final off the preparation I had was probably the big goal. I think any other year I would have been disappointed not to win a medal, but I think coming away from the prep I had, I probably hadn't raced enough either. Like, I pretty much had that 3K, and then trying to get through 3 hard rounds at a World Champs level is not easy, especially if you feel like your preparation hasn't been quite what you were hoping for. So for me to get in the final and then still run relatively well, 3:33 in the final, was good signs that I was able to kind of be resilient and kind of keep fighting from what had been a pretty tough season to that point.
So that resiliency you speak of, sometimes it does take like a real down patch and a scare and some adversity to come out stronger. You see in like a lot of not just athletics, but a lot of sports where someone's sort of been gifted something, and but then they have like a bad patch and they come back like more fierce. Do you feel like that contributed to like motivation, and do you want it a bit more after having such a bad patch?
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely motivates you, but it also gives you a bit of hindsight as well, that I was kind of like, I think previous seasons I'd kind of been lucky, everything had gone well, and I just got on a roll, and it didn't feel easy, but it definitely felt like I wasn't challenged day in, day out like I had been this season. So for me to somewhat pull it out of the fire from where I had been early in the season was kind of, it's almost like a bit of a confidence boost as well, that I'm kind of like, geez, if I can have a good run at it, maybe I do have a lot more PBs left in me. So I think that as athletes, the tough moments make you, if you're able to ride the wave. It's pretty often you can get out the side, and it makes the good races a lot sweeter, and hopefully I can have a couple more left in my career from this point.
So Stewy, you come off World Champs thinking, all right, I'm starting to hit a bit of form, maybe I haven't raced enough, but the World Champs is going to bring me up. We've got a couple of weeks now till Comm Games, and I reckon that I'm a good medal chance at Comm Games. Unfortunately, it doesn't go to plan. You get sick for Comm Games. What sickness did you have? Was it different to what you'd been feeling earlier in the year?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the travel back from World Champs, I picked up the flu. So I was down and out the week leading up to Comm Games. So I left it to the day before to travel up to Birmingham. But I was bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed. So ultimately missed Comm Games. I think obviously it's disappointing to miss a chance to wear the Aussie Guernsey. I think anytime you can, you want to be out there. I think I would have preferred to have missed Comm Games compared to World Champs. So in some respect, I was lucky I hadn't got it a week earlier. But obviously travel, there's always high risk of picking some up. And unfortunately, I felt like I battled to get back for World Champs, and then obviously got sick again. So that pushed me back down, and then had to battle post-Comm Games and try and rally for the season again. But as I said, I think athletes, you go up and down, and you just got to kind of ride that wave.
Watching Ollie win, knowing that would have been right in the mix in that race, how does that? What did that feel like?
I think it's cool to watch as a fan. I think in our level, you're pretty much good mates with most of the guys you're racing. So it's actually good not being in a race and actually finally getting to watch them, because like when you're in it, you actually don't see what's going on. You don't really follow any of the stories or whatever. So to watch the Comm Games, obviously you want to be a part of it, but to see Ollie run so well, and a few of the other guys as well who I'm good mates with, And it was an amazing race to watch. I think it was a privilege to actually watch the race as well. So if you can't be in it, at least you get to enjoy watching it as well.
And after so many setbacks, like this is obviously your second big setback for the year, was there ever any thought about just, pulling the pin on the season and going, you know what, I'm just going to go home, regroup, and then get ready for the next year? Or you're confident that once you got over the flu, you'd be right?
Yeah, I think it obviously crossed my mind, but I think at that point I'd worked so hard to get back in time for World Champs, and I felt like I'd fought it out to that point that I wasn't gonna let the flu knock me back down. I kind of wanted to fight and see if I could run the season out well, because I think even though we have the majors, they're in the middle of the season, there's a lot more racing left for, especially the Diamond League. I think there was 4 or 5 more Diamond Leagues left for the season, so I wanted to keep fighting and see if I could try and get some more out of what had been a tough season up until that point.
You see the footy players and the team sports, Stewy, normally someone will train for the grand final, which could be looked at as like the Olympics or the World Champs or whatever. And then it's like a big letdown. Everyone just lets their hair down. I feel like that when I run a marathon too, like finish the marathon, just forget about it for a while. Whereas you guys run the Olympics and the World Champs, and instead of going out on a bender or like a footy trip or whatever, Mad Monday, you're like straight back to the next Diamond League a week later. It astounds me you can pull that off, like, emotionally.
I think the Olympics is probably the big different one. I think after the Olympics, it's kind of just such a big build up that's probably mentally the hardest to keep going for the rest of the season, just because, you work so hard. We only have it once every 4 years. So for us, the Olympics, you just have so much mental drain going into it. But yeah, I think it's kind of, you stuff around for a little bit after the championships, and then you kind of regroup, reset. And I feel like when you're leading up to championship races, you're normally in at a relatively pretty good fitness level. So you can kind of afford maybe 1 or 2 easy weeks and then kind of, kick on and keep going with the season. Yeah,
so you did kick on like 12:56 5K, less than a second away from Craig Mottram's Aussie record. Then you ran third at Lausanne Diamond League, 3:30. Was that your second fastest time ever, I think? Or
I think second fastest.
Yeah, and then obviously big result, 5th in the Diamond League, 3:31. So huge finish to the season. So the 5K, it must be hard when every time you race, people just talk records, because it's what happens. Like, when you're so good, every time you start on the start line, we're talking, does Stewy get the Australian record here? And that must drain you a bit.
I think for us, it's kind of, you don't notice the external noise that much. I think you go into these Diamond League races, obviously you want to run fast, but everyone in the field is just an amazing athlete that you're going in having to just focus on racing. I think times, even when I ran the 12:56, it didn't really even cross my mind what pace I was on the whole way. I'm just trying to race, trying to beat every guy around you, trying to be as competitive in the races as you can. So I think as long as you go into races, you execute a good plan, you run well, you do the preparation and all that, I think the time obviously takes care of itself. And then, records wise, I don't think you focus too much on it. I'm just trying to run my personal best. If I'm lucky enough to run a record, I'm lucky enough to run a record. But at the end of the day, you're just trying to better yourself and trying to beat your current record, whether that's a personal best or the highest place you finish in a race.
Yes, obviously you must be happy with what happened towards the end of the season. Were you happy? And then what else did you take away from it that you'll learn from?
I think I was happy with the way I was able to kind of keep resilient throughout the season. I think obviously so many setbacks, it would have been easy to roll over, but I felt like I handled myself relatively well. I felt like I kept positive, kept turning up and trying to race my best every time I was in a race, even if it didn't go so well early on the season. So for me, I think I probably did take a lot of confidence for it that I can, if I do have a better prep, maybe I can run a lot quicker than what I was able to at the end of that season as well. Because I feel like you can't really afford to have too many bad months of training. And I feel like last year I did have quite a few bad and poor months of training. So hopefully it means I can have a bigger and better year next year if it all goes to plan. But other than that, I think I was just happy with the way I was able to kind of hold it together and kind of just keep showing up and keeping positive in what was probably one of the most challenging years of my career. So as I mentioned, I think, you go up and down. It makes the years you have good seasons even sweeter. So hopefully I can ride the positives towards the end of the season and kind of take it on to the next season. And then obviously we've got Paris Olympics the following year. So for us, that's the big one. So hopefully I can maintain that momentum.
Hey, Stewy, we often see like youngsters when they sort of first part of MTC go over for a European season, and they often run really well in the first one or two races of of their season. So they've just left the country, and then they really struggle the rest of the season. Whereas you're now a season campaigner where you spend pretty much 6 months a year overseas, but you don't have those ups and downs. Like, what's the difference between those youngsters that first come over that nail it early on and then struggle versus to what you're doing now?
Yeah, to be honest, I think for the young guys, it is hard. Yeah, you're going away from home. I think most of the guys haven't been away from home much more than a week or maybe a month. So for them, it's just hard being away from your family, your friends. You're in a different environment you've never been in. You're jumping between races. It can be hard, especially. I think the hard thing internationally is it's hard if things aren't going well. You pick up an injury, you get sick. It is hard to keep bouncing back week in, week out when you've got races. You've got obviously championships each year. So I think the young guys, I found it as well. It is hard. You feel like you come in hot for the international season, and then it is hard to maintain. But I think it comes with experience that you just get better at kind of knowing when you need to go back to training between races, knowing what you need to do to try and push on throughout the season. So I'm sure those guys, now that they've had more experience, will kind of find the following season a little bit easier.
And who is the consummate professional that you look at and go, that he or she epitomizes professionalism? Is there someone that stands out to you? It doesn't have to be Australian, or someone on the circuit that you always kind of look to and go, that's the shining light.
Yeah, even though he's a little bit younger than me, I think Jakob Ingebrigtsen's probably the guy I'd look at the most, especially after seeing him win Olympics last year and be able to continue on the season. I know if I'm 21 and I'm winning Olympics, I'm having an absolute Larry Bender, and I'm not turning back up and training for at least another year. I'm definitely enjoying what comes with being Olympic champ. But to see him 2 weeks later, he was at preparing as if it was the Olympic final again, just see how focused he is. Everything that goes in is directed at trying to perform well. Which is amazing to see, especially for a guy who I think he's 22 now. So I definitely look at what he does and the way each year, the amount of pressure he's under, being from Norway, I think obviously they don't have too many huge athletes. So he just has so much media pressure, scrutiny, and just the way he's able to show up every race, prepare so well, and keep doing it year in, year out. It's amazing to watch. And even though I'm older than him, I definitely take a lot of motivation from seeing what he does, and can learn a lot of things off him as well.
Do you think he's going to last in the sport with that kind of intensity, or do you reckon you'll see him leave early?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one. I think I wouldn't want to write him off. I think anytime people write him off, he seems to prove him wrong. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be very good at the longer events, the 10K plus, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not going to keep going for a few more years at the marathon as well. So I guess we'll wait and see over the years. It's going to be an exciting journey to watch. But yeah, I don't see him slowing down anytime soon.
And then, Stewy, what have you been up to since the Diamond League final? So, because a lot of listeners out there always are intrigued by, do you take 2 weeks of complete rest? How do you go and enjoy yourself? And then since you've returned back to Australia, what have you been up to?
So, yeah, this year was probably a little bit different, purely because I stayed in London for a couple extra weeks because a lot of my Aussie mates moved over there during quarantine. So I wanted to catch up with them, and obviously I love sport as well. So I wanted to go do all the sporting events and stuff, go to Lords, go see the cricket, whatever as well. So I had a little bit of a holiday over there. And obviously Brett Robertson was over there training for the marathon. So I was kind of, doing the end of season trip and then helping him out with his marathon sessions as well. So it was kind of a little different break there. And then I came back to Australia, had another week or two pretty easy. I'm not a big guy for taking 2 weeks off. I kind of like having a couple of days off, go for a 30-minute jog, couple of days off, 30-minute jog, because I just find my tendons and all that just get way too banged up when I try and start training again. So, I think I probably had 3 or 4 consistent weeks of training now. And I think it generally takes you about a month and you start feeling like you're in decent shape. So I think I'm in a nice position. The main thing for us is just working back in, not trying to get sick or injured. So, and just kind of trying to build momentum. And then obviously next year is when you kind of want to be peaking and in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Moose, you got more questions, or do you want to hear what Stewy did last week for training?
Let's give him a break, mate. We've hammered him for 30 minutes. Go and have a drink, Stewy. Why don't you impress Stewy with your training week, Moose, and then we'll come back to Stewy. Yeah. Get ready for this, Stewy.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you might take something from it. Yeah, so I ran 80K. I had a few ups and downs. While we were recording, actually, last week, Croaks, you said you got a bit sick. And at the same time, Bree, my wife, and Pia were like coughing a bit. And it turns out like the next morning they tested positive for COVID. Oh, well, Bree did. I'm just assuming Pia was had the virus too, because she had the same symptoms as her mum, and they sort of like locked at the hip. So I actually think that's what knocked me around when I was in WA, because it makes sense that if I had it then and they have it now, that we all shared it. So it kind of made me feel a bit better knowing that there was an actual reason why I wasn't running that well. And I feel a little better now. So Monday I ran just nearly 10K just around town. Tuesday again, just like 11K. Missed a meeting actually. Forgot about that. Got back. It was a Nike meeting, Stewy. So see you in the range for back half 2023. What are you jogging in, mate? What shoes do you roll in?
I pretty much wear the Invincibles for everything at the moment. So I love them. Like just recovery wise off them, I feel like you can run and you pull up pretty well. So I thought I'd be a Pegasus guy, a Nike Pegasus guy, but yeah, I've moved to the Invincibles pretty much for everything outside session days.
Even long runs.
Long runs as well, yeah. I love them. I think they're kind of good because they don't feel fast when you're jogging, but when you switch over to flats, you definitely feel like they're a lot faster.
Yeah, you tried the Invincible 3 yet? Have they sent you one of them?
Unfortunately, not yet. I'm hoping to get them. I think you'll probably get them before me, but yeah, I'm sure the Nike guys will get them out at some point.
Yeah, I saw them the other day actually. I just had one in my hand for the first time. I like it. I like the look. They look pretty good. So a little workout on Wednesday. It was one of the worst workouts I've ever done in my life. I'll be honest, like 6K monofartlek. So that's average of 320. I really could not get going here. So there's just some, like, it was just shit weather. And I know, like, we complain about weather a bit, but fuck, it's been bad in Victoria lately. Every day is just awful, windy, wet. This was one of them days. I couldn't get the pace going, so I thought in order to get something out of this workout, I've got to keep the floats at least a little bit honest. So I did loops to the Anglesea Caravan Park and then turned around at the 10-minute mark, and I did make it back to the start point about, I think it was about 20 seconds, like past the finish line. So that was at least one thing, is that I closed stronger than I started. When was the last time you ran a mono, Stewy?
No, not for a while. When I was a junior, obviously from Ballarat, we used to do them a fair bit on Thursdays, but yeah, not for years. I do like it though. I think it's a good workout. Just because it's hard, but it's always achievable. You feel like you can finish it. So yeah, I don't know why we don't do them anymore, but yeah, it is a good session. Did you used to do them on the lake? So we did do them on the lake, yeah. I think predominantly on the lake. We sometimes had a Bungyong as well. But yeah, it was always not a bad session on the lake because you pretty much finished doing a whole lap of the lake, so you didn't have to jog far to conclude the session.
Yeah. And you just go full gas to see how quick you can run a lake in at about the halfway point.
Pretty much. You'd end up, your floats would be pretty much the same as reps. I think especially when you got a few guys around you, it gets a little bit too competitive.
Nath Hardigan's special, that.
Oh, he was unbelievable in the second half of fartlek. You'd always catch him over the short reps at the end, and he'd just keep hammering to make sure you could get him by the final rep.
So he was fartlek for the first 10 minutes, race for the second 10. It's just all out.
He'd just go as hard as he could to drop you in the first 90 seconds, and then he'd be happy.
Just keep going. Yeah, especially he never would want the junior boys to keep up, so that first rep would be really quick.
Yeah. I went to Melbourne after that, actually. So Thursday morning, went for a jog with a few of the running company guys. We did a lap of the Tan and then a lap of Faulkner Park back into the city. So an hour. And then I ran with Zach and Newman on the Friday morning. We did a couple of laps of the Tan and back home. And geez, it's a different look when you run around the Tan. You see some style around that place. Like you don't see it in Ballarat and you don't see it in Anglesea when you're out for a jog. It's impressive. And Zachary explained that it's like the golden hour at the moment. It's like in between Spring Racing Carnival and the Christmas parties haven't started yet. So everyone is up early and exercising, and they're all on the Tan before 7. We were just laughing about how Brady would lose his mind if he saw this many people out there. It's good though. It's good to see people. It's good for our sport. It gives me hope that people do still run, because sometimes it goes a while before if I see anyone running down in Anglesea. But I got a sore knee after that, so I went on the bike on Saturday, just a spin bike. And it felt good after that. So on Sunday morning, I woke up, did 10 minutes on the spin bike, then joined the group for their Sunday run. We had a good, solid amount of people, I reckon, probably like 12, 15. I went 22K, fair few hills, 450 meters in that 22, but the others went, the loop was 26. A few people added on a bit further. It wasn't fast, but those hills, and there's a bit of mud out there at the moment, so it made it pretty tough. It was good to get it done. The knee didn't get worse. In fact, it probably got a bit better since then. So 80K for the week, and yeah, that's embarrassing in front of you, Stewie. So let's move on, Croaks.
Yeah, my week's even more embarrassing. So I had that sore sort of medial shin at the end of last week. And then, yeah, like when we were recording last Monday, just before we started recording, I said to Viv, I think I'm getting sick. And then Tuesday morning, I woke up, with a sore throat, headache. And so, I was pretty much sick the rest of the week. I spent like 1 or 2 nights out on the couch because I was having like coughing fits anytime I would lay down, and it was just keeping Viv up. So I left the bedroom. By like maybe Friday, started to, just be able to cough some stuff up. And I'm feeling better now, but I'm still pretty congested. But my shin is still like sore to sort of hop on. So I've got a physio appointment tomorrow. So I've had 9 days off now, 10 days off. But I think, it's way better than it was, but I still can't hop sort of pain free. So
that's no good.
Go and see the physio tomorrow. That's my week.
Okay.
All right, Stewie, tell us how a real athlete trains.
All right, I'll see if I can top these weeks. Unfortunately, my week wasn't anything crazy either. So I think Monday, I'd raced a mile in Japan on the Saturday. So I was still in Japan Monday. So I think I had a session that morning, 8 by K, where I was just doing 3-minute reps because I didn't have a K marked out. And it was just down at the park near the hotel where we were staying in Tokyo. So I assume they would have been probably anywhere between 250 to 3-minute kilometer pace for those reps with a minute recovery. And then flew back that night. So only the one run for the day. We flew out of Tokyo, I think 10:30 at night. So back to Australia, arrived Tuesday Arvo, and then went for a jog at Tuesday Arvo. I think I ran 50 minutes, so probably around 12K, just nice and easy. Obviously, coming off a long haul flight, your tendons and stuff are pretty banged up. So like to go nice and easy just to try and loosen them up and not do anything too hard on them. Wednesday was a 60-minute run in the morning. I had my 14K loop door to door, so just knocked that one out. Nothing too crazy there. And then in the Arvo, I had a 7K run, so I just did my out and back 3.5K loop from home, 3.5K back through Albert Park, which is always nice. Thursday I did threshold, so 30-minute threshold around Albert Park, so it's just 2 laps, just over 9K I think for the 30 minutes. Probably anywhere between 3 to 3:05 kilometer pace. And then got out for another 8K in the evening on Thursday. Had 5K on Thursday. I actually went to the Hunter Movember event Thursday afternoon. So we ran a nice slow 5K, had a few pit stops around the Tan, to have a couple of beers, some to eat on the run as well. So yeah, that was a pretty slow 5K that night, but a great event. The guys at Movember are doing a wonderful job, kind of raising awareness for men's mental health. And yeah, it was a good night to be involved in. Friday was an easy 14K, so 60-minute run, and then got out for another 7K Friday night, just over 30 minutes, I think it was. Saturday, I was at Wattle Park for a hilly threshold. So it's a 7K course with 3 hills ranging between 50 seconds to 90 seconds in duration. And we kind of float between the hills and then run pretty hard up the hills. So I think it was just over 22 minutes for the 7K hilly loop there. So not a bad time for this time of year while we're building back to full fitness. And then got out for another 7K at night. Saturday Arvo, and then Sunday hour 40 with the normal city group. So we generally have 4 to 5 guys that show up every Saturday 8:30 from Albert Park. So they were dead on time and yeah, had a good run. I think just under 25K for that Sunday run. About as far as I ever run. So that was a good run and topped off a relatively solid week, especially coming off the travel day Monday night and try and get over the flight Tuesday.
So how many Ks would have that been for the week?
I think it would have been a little bit lower because obviously I missed a run Monday and then only one run Tuesday. So I say it might have been 140 where normally I'll be, up 155, 160 per week.
Yeah. And Stewy, on your easy runs, do you meet with guys from MTC or are you generally doing those solo?
Generally solo. I think I don't live too close to most of the other boys. A lot of them live the other side of town. So I'm kind of stuck in St Kilda by myself. So I'll generally run by myself, which I don't mind. I think I see enough of the boys on session days that I'd get sick of them and they'd get sick of me if I'm seeing them every day. So happy to have off days and then I can kind of run. If I'm feeling good, I can run a little bit quicker. If I'm feeling tired, I can kind of hold back as well. So I don't actually mind running by myself. And I've got some good loops around Albert Park, through Faulkner Park, up near the MCG. So I love it when I'm back training in Melbourne. It's probably one of the greatest places in the world to train. So it's if the weather improves a little bit, it's always nice getting out and training around here. And
do you put anything in your ears like when you're running, or it's just you and the stopwatch? You don't listen to anything?
Yeah, I'll listen to things, especially in AFL season. Obviously I love AFL, so I'll be listening to AFL radio or AFL trade rumors or whatever as well. So I always have some in to try and kill the time, but I also don't mind just running without listening to anything as well. It's pretty good where running around where I live. There's always some going on. Some takes your eye when you're out running or whatever. So I'm happy to run with headphones. Happy to run without them.
Mm-hmm.
Stewy, when was the last time someone towed you up in a session?
Oh, I had a few early in the year when I was struggling. I'll tell you that much. It was pretty hard to hang on most of the sessions. But I'm actually not sure. I think the way we train, it's not often we're doing anything crazy hard. So I don't think I've been towed up too often, which is kind of good because it's obviously not fun when you're having a rough day and everyone else is absolutely killing you.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of hills around where you are. Do you feel like that's a disadvantage or is that a concern at any point?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have more hills where I live, but I'm kind of a guy that likes just running door to door. If I have a 60-minute run, I know if I leave the house at 9:30, I'm back 10:30. I can kind of just schedule it in my day. So, I'd love it if there was a few more hills around here, but unfortunately, around Albert Park, there's not too many floating around.
And Stewy, you mentioned, we mentioned last week about your mile win in Japan. I've been following the sport for a long time, and I can't remember an Aussie going over to Japan for a road mile. Is it a new event, or how can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so it was a new event this year. So obviously Fukuoka's, it's where they have the marathon. Obviously, it's a big running culture around there. So Suguru Osaka, who's I think he's a Toy Ford Japanese marathoner, probably their most known athlete, was involved in starting up the race, and he kind of reached out and asked if I'd be interested in coming over and joining in the race because I think they're trying to kind of build it up as well. And I was like, yeah, I would love to come back. I hadn't been back since the Tokyo Olympics, and obviously in the Olympics we didn't really get to check out Japan, so I was like, if I get the chance to ever race there again, I'd love to go back. And then obviously this race came up, so I was excited to open my season there. I wasn't quite sure where the fitness was, but I didn't want to miss up the opportunity to get over and get involved in a new race. And obviously they love running over there. It's a different world compared to how many people we have at races here. When you're in Japan, they love it. You kind of feel like a little bit of a rock star, how many people line in the streets, just absolutely cheering you. It's just an amazing atmosphere. So for its first year, it was a great race to be involved in, and hopefully it can keep improving and building over the next couple of years as well.
What shoes did you wear? Road mile.
So I just wore Next Percent. So unfortunately, the Road Mile, it was kind of like, it's like the playground, the surface you have on a playground. So it's kind of like a little bit of a spongy road. So it was a little bit different wearing flats on that. But it was a beautiful race. Obviously, the mile just ran around a lake in the center of Fukuoka. So one of the nicest sites you'll have in any race you get to run. So I loved it. I love Japan. So it was an awesome 6 days over there.
And you won it. Did you win it early or did you win it late?
I've kind of felt probably just after halfway I was in control, which is obviously a nice feeling. But I think Japanese guys, they always just go out just full tilt kamikaze. There's no everyone's on the pace. There's no guys that try and pace themselves. They're just pushing it. So the first 400, we were flying. We must have been running a 54-second pace the first 400. 20 guys just absolutely hammering each other, just trying to keep up, because it's hard, because obviously the path's not that wide as well, so you have so many guys trying to run exactly the same pace. So it was it was a little bit hard to get out, but then once we got into it, I knew it halfway. The guy who was leading, who the guy was with me at halfway, actually ended up finishing last in the race because he just blew up so bad. But I love how they race. They just, all of the guys, I think there's 23 of us in the race. Every guy was just going out trying to win. If you didn't win or keep up, you might as well not be in there. So they just 100% everything on the line, which is obviously fun to be in a race where everyone's doing that.
All right. What do you reckon, Moose? We'll get on to thanking some patrons.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, you can kick us off.
All right. Thank you to Kieran Shepherdson from Adelaide, South Australia. So, Kieran, good runner. PB 901 for 3K, 15:15 for 5K, and 34:32 for 10. I'm going to say that 5K is probably the best result there. Debut marathon this year at the Gold Coast in 3:17. That is certainly not the best. That's a bad day for Kieran there. But he's also done a 100K race in 13 hours and 27 minutes. Wow. I mean, Kieran got some pace on him. Not sure he needs to go do 100K races yet. Save that for when you're old and beat up, Kieran.
I might add a bit more info there. I think Kieran was one of these runners that was quite serious as a youngster, junior, maybe 19, 20, and probably ran all of those PBs, all those track PBs around then. He's a little bit older now, and obviously didn't step up to the marathon till now. So
makes sense.
I think that explains that. I'll go next. I've got Vincent Tully. Vincent lives in the ACT. His PB is a 20:24, which he set at the Tuggeranong Park Run. He ran an hour 42 at the YMCA Canberra Half. Pretty sure he has a kid and is an assistant director at the Australian Department of Health. So thanks for your support, Vincent, and maybe I'll bump him into you at a park run sometime. And Stewy, I believe you're giving a shout out to a youngster.
Yes, I've got Seb Havens. So he's from Sydney. He runs for the Randwick Botany Harriers. He's an under 20 athlete. He ran PBs of 9:02 for 3K, 16:08 for 5K, 10K 34:21, and then also he was 35th in the under 20 race at National Cross. So any junior who's making the National Cross is obviously a quality athlete. So and obviously he's got some good speed with the 9:02 3K as well. So I'm sure we're going to see big things for Seb in the coming years once he progresses from under 20s.
I actually did a bit of digging, Stewy. I saw that you ran the under 20s twice back in 2013, where you finished 8th, won by Matt Baxter, the Kiwi, that year. Jack Rayner was 3rd, Jack Patterson 2nd, Luke Matthews was just behind you, and then the following year you finished 20th, with Jack finishing 1st that year, and Geordie Beamish was 3rd. Nath Pearce was 5th, roaming Nath. So I actually quite like going back through the old results, seeing under 20s that maybe weren't killing it, that are doing good things now.
Yeah, definitely. I think you go through the results, it's crazy to read some of the names of like we had some guys that would absolutely dominate in juniors, but obviously it doesn't always correlate to seniors. And then you have some guys who are no good. I was never crazy good in juniors, or there's a lot of other guys as well who were scraping on the state teams or not even making state teams, who have ended up being amazing senior athletes. So I think it shows it's kind of a personal journey for the different types of athletes. Some take a lot longer to develop or take a while to kind of find their feet. So I think it's it is cool seeing the results and kind of working out how their careers from that point progressed on.
Yeah.
Would you say, Stewy, that you're like the mirror version of Jack Davies, where you actually got good and he got real slow after juniors?
Well, Jack was 6th in 2013.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he had me covered in juniors. I don't think there was too often I beat him throughout our whole junior careers. But yeah, I don't know. He was an amazing athlete. He still obviously still runs and he's gone relatively well, but he's unfortunately had a few injuries and stuff as well. So I can't wait to see him back find his form for the St. Stephen Harriers. But yeah, I'm sure it will all come together for him. He'll have some better luck with injuries and hopefully can put on some big results.
He needs a new foot, I think.
All right. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks to those patrons, Seb, Vincent, and Kieran, and all the other patrons that, as Brady says, helped keep the lights on here at Inside Running. A message now from our podcast partner, Lululemon. We've been talking about and wearing Lululemon's limited edition Movember product range. In today's world, we know that mental well-being support is needed more than ever. As part of Lululemon's ongoing commitment to elevate mental well-being, our partnership with Movember hopes to accelerate and expand access to wellbeing tools across Australia and New Zealand, creating real lasting change within our communities. You can show your support for Movember with this limited edition Lululemon Movember product collection. Lululemon is here to support you while you support Movember in changing the face of men's health. Try it out for yourself with free shipping and free returns for all online orders. Go to lululemon.com.au. Let's go to some running news. I'll kick it off with the NCAA Cross Country Champs, which was on early Sunday morning our time, and I believe it's on. It's going to be on like Fox Sports like tomorrow, a highlights package of it. And like this is a crazy race. It's just so deep. Everyone goes out like free beer in the first like kilometre, and we always have a fair few Aussies running. So in the men's, Charlie Hicks, who runs for Stanford, he won the race ahead of a couple of Northern Arizona guys. NAU, they won the teams event in a tiebreaker. The best Aussies, we had 3 in the top 20. So Kai Robinson finished 10th, Jackson Sharpe was 16th, and Zach Facioni was 20th. And then in the women's race, we had Katelyn Tuohy from NC State. She won. And her team also won the teams event. Best Aussie was Amelia Mazza-Downie in 22nd place. So
Croaks, talk us through the tiebreaker. So they do it a bit different there, don't they?
Yeah, so I've heard a few different versions of how so sometimes they look at the place of the 6th runner, and whichever 6th runner finishes the highest, that team wins, which in that case NAU would have actually lost. But what they do for the NCAA tiebreaker is they look at the head-to-head. So they look at, okay, who won? So the first, say for example, NAU's first runner was 2nd and Stanford's first runner was 3rd. NAU get 1 point there. Then they look at NAU's 2nd runner. Did they beat Stanford or did Stanford beat them? And that's how they basically tally it up that way. So NAU won 3-2. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But I would have thought they'd go to runner number 7. Just go one down.
Yeah, I guess there's multiple ways of doing it, and if they looked at the 6th runner, NAU would have lost. I'm not sure what would happen if they looked at the 7th runner.
I mean the 6th runner.
Sorry, 6th runner. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one they just look at the head-to-head.
Yeah. So Kai Robinson was almost a favourite for the race, wasn't it? So I don't reckon he'd be too up and about with 10th.
Well, I don't know. I just think it shows how good these college athletes are. That it's I think that first 20 can sort of move, like maybe the top 5 or top couple are a pretty clear cut, but then outside of that, you've got 20 guys finishing within 10 seconds of each other. Like that's how deep it is.
Well, there's an Olympian coming 10th, really, isn't there? And then you've got first and second who they're going to be professional runners, no doubt. You've probably got a sub-13 5K guy with that Nico Young bloke, or like at least close to anyway. So it's a pretty good field up there.
Very much so. Yep. All right. Moose, take us to some domestic 5,000 metre state champs.
Yeah. We'll start with South Australia. Max Stevens, he was hanging out with us at the conference actually because he works at the Adelaide store. So he ran 14:18 to win from Adam Goddard 14:19, and Jakob Cox was 14:25 for third. Then ladies, Tara Palm, friend of the show, 16:39 win over Brooke Hines and Sophie Hilpala. So not quite as strong as the Victorian race, which was won by Sarah Billings. That was actually really good to watch. I watched this one out when I was out at dinner, had the race going. Sarah was the fastest, like in terms of her heritage, I guess. Although Melissa Duncan's run good 15s before. But Sarah dusted them over the final 200. So she ran 16:33 for the win. Melissa Duncan was second, 16:34, and Rachel McGuinness, the marathoner off to Valencia, she was third, and she made she got the pace going through the middle stages. Yeah,
I found it interesting, Moose. Like, at one point there, it looked like Liz Duncan had opened up a decent gap. Like she sort of accelerated with maybe 300 to go, and at 200 to go, you're like, oh, she's got a decent lead. But then from 200 to go to sort of 80 to go, Sarah made up the gap and then was able to kick over the top in that last 80 metres.
I think ran quite maturely, actually, because she was just sitting back for a long time and not worrying about surges and that kind of stuff throughout the race, and looked quite comfortable.
Yeah.
I thought it was well run.
And the men's?
The men's, yeah, also a good race. Lachlan Hurd, who had a good cross-country season, he ran 14:11:21 to beat Queenslander Liam Buden, 14:11:85. Dale Carroll was third in 14:12. So yeah, pretty tight race in the men's as well. Real highlight for me was seeing Run Strong Online Coaching big dog Craig Appleby, who is coached by Dave McNeil. Actually, he was third Victorian. He's an old fella, almost 38, and he's been around since. He reckons he keeps saying it. He beat Collis one year, I reckon, in the junior cross country, or him and Collis used to go head to head. So that's the type of vintage we're talking about here. And he came fourth, ran 14:12, 6-second PB or 4-second PB at 38 years old in the 5K. And it's not like he's started late. This bloke's been around forever. So really happy to see him doing well, and he is such a good guy, being a long-time Patreon man.
Yeah, I found that pretty inspiring as well, Moose. Like, 38's, not young for 5K, and especially when you've been at it for as long as he has. So it was a great result.
Yeah, agreed.
And Stewie, you got some results from your home state?
Yeah, so we've got the Point to Pinnacle half marathon. So it's Hobart to Mount Wellington, 1,270 metres of elevation. So anyone who's been to Mount Wellington knows how steep that is. That is a tough run all the way up there. So in the men's race, we had James Hansen taking the win in 85:36, ahead of Ben St. Lawrence 86:15, and Nick Earl in third in 88:29. So three pretty good runners there. So that obviously was a good race. And in the women, Millie Clark, 1 hour 40:22. Miriam Dowie 1 hour 52:10 in second, and then Ruth Wilson in third in 1:56:08. So yeah, good to see Millie Clark back in some good form there as well.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard about Millie racing in a while. So yeah, good to see her back.
And Jimmy Hansen beating Ben over the half, that's, a little bit of a surprise given, Ben loves this race. He also does a lot of trail running, runs a lot of mountains around where he lives, Blue Mountains area. So it's pretty solid from James. Also,
Benny's also come off UTA 50K, and also he finished second in that half that we mentioned last week to Rory Hunter. So he's had a big month, Benny.
Yeah, they put a bit of cash up down here. Obviously, they're getting some decent athletes.
Yeah, I think it's like $2 to $3 grand.
Jeez, Stewy, go to a uphill tempo, mate.
Yeah, a little bit far. Not a big fan of that hill. That hill is big.
Yeah, running in St Kilda is not going to help you much for running up Mount Wellington.
Work to get up there, but maybe one year.
I'm going to slide in a little business question here, Stewy. Without going into specifics, like from your the business side of professional running, where's the biggest proportion of your salary come from? Is it brand contract? Is it appearance fees, or is it prize money?
I think it's definitely brand contracts. So luckily for me, I've been a Nike athlete for quite a few years. So I think most athletes, it's generally through the brand contract where you'll make probably the larger percentage of your yearly income. But obviously for us, you've still got to try and do well in the races for prize money, appearance fees if you're lucky enough in some of the races. So kind of hopefully, if you have a good season, they all slowly start to add up.
Yeah. Does that change when you're a sort of a junior coming out? Is it more? Do you reckon it would be more prize money when you don't have the credibility behind you, or the runs on the board yet?
Yeah, I think so. Unless you're an absolute star, it's probably hard to get a brand contract straight away. I think you kind of got to prove that you're at a good level before you really get that kind of like brand deal or whatever. So that's obviously the hard part coming from juniors, is that those first couple of years where you probably do battle a lot to try and survive in the sport. But I think at the end of the day, you don't pick running if you're in the sport trying to make massive amounts of money. There's definitely a lot of other sports where you could do probably financially a lot better than running.
Yeah. Were you recruited heavily to college when you came out of high school?
I did have quite a few offers, but for me, I'd been at boarding school since I was 13. I'd lived away from my family for those 6 years, so I didn't really want to extend that and go live overseas for a lot of years as well. So I think I was pretty happy to stay local and move down to Melbourne and start uni there.
Fair enough.
All right, Training Talk. So this Training Talk segment is brought to you by Lululemon. You can support Movember by signing up for More Than a Run, powered by Lululemon. So this Training Talk is also a listener question. The listener question comes in from Felipe Barraza. How often do you plan/prescribe an easy week to your athletes and to yourself? Good question. And Stewy, I might start with you, because one thing, although I'm not part of MTC, I see enough on Strava that traditionally most of your weeks are the same sort of year. Like obviously if you're racing Diamond Leagues, you're going to have easy weeks in the lead up to races. But, in your base phase like you're in now, your weeks generally look the same. Do you actually have a scheduled down week once a month or whatever?
Probably not scheduled. I think obviously when we're racing a bit more, you have obviously the race weeks. You kind of feel fresher because you're not quite as running as much, and you kind of tape and leading into the race. But I think for us, it's kind of the weeks will be similar, but you'll kind of, if I'll be able to tell if I'm tired, if I feel like I need an easier week, and I'll kind of just pull back maybe the lengths of my runs, or just the main thing for me is just the intensity, trying to reduce how hard I'm working in the workouts, how quick I'm running on my easy runs, just try and pull them back for those couple of days or even the week, just to make sure I'm going to be able to put more weeks together rather than either get sick, break down, or have something go wrong. So kind of just have that easier week, kind of reset, and then try and keep going with the future training weeks.
I really like this question, Moose, because, obviously if you're training for a marathon and you've got a 12-week block and you're doing big mileage, like you've done with Toby, like you do have designated down weeks. But I often see a lot of 5 and 10K runners don't sort of prescribe that once a month easy week. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it depends on how resilient the athlete is. Some people can train and never get injured and never get burned, and they still should take a down week. But in those cases, maybe I'll have someone run 3 to 4 weeks of blocks of good training, and then they have a down week. Maybe it's like 80% of volume of their normal weeks. But then you get the athletes that are continually hurt or they get tired quickly. They're maybe more prone to sickness. And I've even gone back to sort of do on and off weeks. So 1 week up, 1 week down type setups where, they really don't get stressed 1 week, like 2 weeks in a row. It just helps them build consistency that way rather than sort of fall into holes. But the majority of athletes that I've got are 2 to 3 weeks up, 1 down.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily schedule down weeks with a lot of my athletes unless they're training for a marathon, because I'm a bit like Stewy, where I would prefer to see them train within themselves during the week, which means they probably don't need the recovery week quite as much as somebody that's absolutely nailing themselves in the sessions 2 or 3 times a week. So my recovery weeks would come more like I try and find a race for them to do, or at least a hard park run once a month. So obviously the week of the hard park run would be a recovery week before that actual effort. And then they generally have a few lighter days and lighter sessions off the back of that hard effort. So that's how I sort of schedule my easier weeks with most of my athletes.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking training, Stewy, I had a question come in from a listener for you specifically. Like, what's the session that you struggle with the most out of a training block?
For me, probably the ones I find the hardest is the reps where you have float recoveries. So I feel like I'm pretty relatively good at buffering kind of the anaerobic, the lactic stuff. So I feel like I can have a quick break and be ready to go. If we're doing 8x K off a minute rest, I feel by the minute rest, I'm 100% pretty much, well, not 100%, but relatively fully recovered. So I find them a lot easier than when we're doing 6x or 8x with the minute float in between, where you probably can't quite as recover as quickly. They're probably the stuff I do find the hardest. And I think other than that, probably hill reps I find hard. I think I do get a lot out of doing hill reps, especially when we're over in Europe. We'll do them quite often as well. So I get a lot out of them, but yeah, I definitely find them, pretty challenging.
What's generally the length of the hill reps that you do when you're just doing pure hill reps and you're not doing like a hilly tempo?
Yeah, so we might do, I think in London we have a spot in Richmond Park where we'll do 6x1K hills, where the start of the hill, probably the first 200 is pretty steep. You feel like you're climbing, and then it's just gradual over the remaining 800. But I think that your lactic gets up that first 200, and then you're kind of trying to hold it together over that last 800 meters. So I find that type of training hard, but I think it is that training where you do get a lot out of it if you can kind of do it effective and in a smart way.
I think everyone would find that hard. 6x uphill, fucking hell. 6x is pretty hard, let alone putting it up a hill. That's rough.
So what sort of effort are you running those at? Because obviously if you're doing K reps up a hill, like your recoveries are going to be pretty generous because you've got to obviously get all the way back down. So are you running them at 10K effort? Like how hard are you pushing up the hill?
Yeah, so probably maybe for 80 to 85% of race pace effort. So a little bit harder than threshold, but you're not absolutely burying yourself, because I think doing 6 reps is too hard. If you're burying a rep, you're not going to recover. Even if you jog down in 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes even to get to the bottom, you're still going to not be recovered by the time you're trying to start a rep. So it's finding that medium where you're working hard, but you're also recovered enough that you can kind of hit 6 pretty good reps, and then also feeling like you're recovered enough to be able to back up and train well the following day, whether you have a run or a long run or where it fits in the schedule.
I always love hearing Stewy speak about his training and like how not burying himself. It's like, it's a good reminder, like for all the athletes out there. And maybe when I get back training, I'll remind myself that maybe I just need to dial back the intensity on this session if I'm tired.
You still got no Strava, no GPS, mate?
Nah, so I'm just a stopwatch guy. So yeah, no Strava. I'm obviously not the biggest fan of Strava. I don't have the GPS watch anyway, so I couldn't use Strava. Even if I wanted to, I'd have to manually upload all my runs, which would take a bit too much time. But yeah, I'm just a stopwatch guy. I love the fact of running, just going out on feel. And I think for me, it's a pretty simple sport. I think we look at what a lot of the African guys do. They keep it nice and simple, so it works well for them. And I kind of find that works for me, and just it's easier to pull back training if you need to, because you're not worried about hitting a certain amount of Ks or running at a certain pace. And then obviously yeah, you get pretty good at judging what you need to do across the season. So I feel like I can kind of, by feel know what I need to do and get a relative judgment of how I'm going off that as well.
So you're in the group on a Sunday. Everyone else's watches beeping. They're just focusing on their heart rate or their pace, whatever. Does it piss you off a little bit? Do you give them a bit of like banter about that?
Nah, they wouldn't be in the group if that was happening. Nah, not really. I don't really mind. I think a lot of guys love that stuff. I'm obviously not big on it, but if it works for them, it works for them. So I'm happy for them to do it.
What about during the thresholds around Albert Park? Like, because all those guys I know have like the GPS. Like, are you getting any feedback on the pace that you're running at?
Yeah, if some of the other boys are wearing them, obviously you'll know generally the pace we are going. But I kind of just purely like it because I can kind of just individualize my own training. If I feel like I need to go a little bit harder on something, maybe I can push that boundary. But if I need to hold back like the majority of training and just try and keep in that nice 80 to 90% window, I can just do that, and not whether it's slower than I normally run or faster. I don't think I get too carried away because I don't really have a set pace where I'm trying to hit every time, and it's kind of just nice training on feel and not worrying too much about what the data's saying.
Yeah. Hey, Moose, I reckon this is, if we were to interview Sean Crichton like 30 years ago, and like he's talking about his training group where it's like, oh yeah, I'm happy to let those guys go in training. It sounds very similar, I reckon. Yeah,
there is a bit of that, except Sean had the retired runner. He's a bit more likely to give someone a bit of a spray or a bit of a clip.
Maybe, yeah. So,
Stu might get that in 10 years or so.
But it's that same mentality that, I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to train within myself. I know that the training's not important. It's what I do on race day. Yeah. So
common themes for sure. Yeah, it definitely seems to be the forgotten art at the moment.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks to Lululemon for this week's Training Talk partner. Sign up for More Than a Run via www.lululemon.com.au. All right, Moose on the loose. We got a few messages from the one that you mentioned last week.
What was that? What was last week?
Podcast hosts that, I don't know, talk about themselves all the time.
Oh, yeah. I heard it again on another one, like it was like a crime one where the retired detective, and he interviews other like retired detectives, but he just takes over and just talks about himself and all his own stories, and it's hard to listen to. Anyway.
So what do you got this week?
Well, this isn't really like a rant or anything. This is just like coming into this week it's the worst week of the year for me as a small business owner, because it's Black Saturday, Cyber Monday, like all these Thanksgiving themed sales that the Australian market's taken on. And like I don't know the exact foundations of it, like where it kind of started. I remember it was Thanksgiving. I saw it in the States when I was there one year, but it's sort of big over here now. And just thought I would explain like some of the difficulties as a small business owner during this time, because there are some, and it's not often like talked about that most of the Black Friday sales where they put big discounts on their websites, they're achievable for these big companies because the margins that they can achieve through massive buying power, because they're this big corporation, make these sales actually sustainable for them. Like they don't just lose money like we would as a small business if we had the capability, or if we decided to put these discounts on our business. So there's like, we often get sort of pressured to discount product in store, and we often get asked like, when are your sales coming up, all this kind of stuff. But as a small business, we just cannot compete with them. And there's just a few reasons why. Like the staff that we pay in our store, like we treat them well. Like I hope we do anyway. They're all local staff. Like we're sort of giving jobs to local people. We're paying rent on a building which is owned by a local kind of landlord who owns a business up the road. We sponsor the local athletics club. We sponsor the Little Athletics Club. We donate $1 of every sale to a local charitable organisation. We provide run clubs, and we provide a place where people can come in and get service. And so these are the reasons why a small business who offer those things can't put discounts and can't just cut the guts out of every product they have. Because if we did all these things and we discounted, then the lights go off in a week, maybe 2 weeks. We just can't pay bills that way. So like, I've got no issue with people buying discounted shoes. That's like totally fine, and that's absolutely okay. It's just, as a service-based business like we are, and we're focused on sort of small community-minded, I guess, goals for our business, we can't also offer huge discounts. And so that's the reason why. So I just thought it'd sort of kind of get on the offense, because we've been getting asked like day in, day out. And we've also started to cop some criticism that our prices, being recommended retail price, which is the price that other places have these products for 50 weeks of the year, it's the same price as what we charge. We just can't discount through these periods because we just can't afford to. So anyway, that's my little rant. It's not a rant, it's just an explanation. And hopefully people understand the difference between like a small service-based business and a massive corporation selling their products like direct to the customers without any local engagement whatsoever.
Fair enough. All right, before we wrap up, I reckon we've got a few more quick fire questions for Stewy while we've got him.
Yep.
Stewy, we haven't really spoken about what your plans are for the next few months. So first question, will we see you running Zatopek?
Unfortunately, not Zatopek. I'm kind of putting away the 10K track for hopefully a couple more years, and then I might try and get back and do a few more. I think for me, I'm just kind of world champs next year. I want to try and focus on the 1500 and maybe even the 5K as well. So, not really too focused on the 10K, at least for the hopefully the next season or two.
All right, move on to World Cross. Will you target an individual spot there or a spot in the relay or both?
Yeah, so obviously for us, having a home World Cross is massive. I think it's going to be an amazing event. And yeah, some we're definitely gearing up towards. So I would love to be, if I got to choose, I would love to be in the relay team. I think it'd be cool being in a mixed 4x2K relay. But obviously I'll have to run well at the trial and make sure I organise my spot that way. So
with the trial, are they having a separate, are they having a 10K race plus a 2K race?
I think they are. I actually haven't really looked into it too much. Obviously it's still a while away, just focusing on training, but I think they will have both trials and kind of use that as a guide to how they're going to select the team for what's going to be an amazing event to have in Australia, the World Cross Country. And so you would just run the 2K at the trial, not the 10K? I think so. I think on the race day, I think it's too hard to do both. And obviously you wouldn't want to take a spot in two events if it was possible, if you're going to be banged up and tired from running out race right before it, or even post from another athlete who's going to be in good shape for when Bathurst does roll around. Yeah.
All right, Stewy. So talking cross country, can you name 12 athletes, 6 men, 6 women who will be on that team?
Oh, it's a hard one. I think, I don't know. I feel like cross country is so different. I feel like a lot of guys are really good at cross country who probably aren't as good on the track, or vice versa. A lot of guys are good on the track, and some cross country courses are a lot different. But I think in the men's there's probably 10 or 12 guys fighting for those 6 spots. So
I just want 6. I just want 6, mate.
I'll say my training partner. So I think Brett will be on the team. Jack, I reckon Matty Ramsden. Who else do we have? I reckon Andy Buchanan's a good chance. Obviously great over the cross country. Pat Tiernan, obviously amazing cross country runner. So I assume he'll be in the 6 for the men's team. And maybe Sam McEntee as well. So he's training well at the moment. So I'm assuming he's going to be riding the mix for the men's team. For the women's, I'm not quite as sure who's going to be running or who's skipping it or whatever. So I probably won't give a 6 for that, just purely because I don't really know who's going to vie for spots on that team.
Smart, safe, media trained well, Stewy.
It's going to be interesting though, Moose, when you think about like the potential of our men's team, because like Morgan McDonald's in there as well. Like, well, he won NCAA cross, so he's
Ollie Hawes in there.
Yeah, wonder if Ollie though would target just that 2K. How good would that be? So you've got like assuming that these people are going to try out for the relay, but you got Stewy, Ollie, Jess Hull, and Lyndon Hall in a 4x2K.
Yeah, that's solid. That is real solid. Jeez.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got to get there, Moose. We've got to get to Bathurst.
Yeah. Book that accommodation for sure.
There is talk. We're going to be trying to do some stuff up there. Next question. Moose, you wrote this one down. Next breakout star of MTC. Who do you like the look of? It's coming through.
I think a lot of the young guys this year, obviously they found it tough, probably just their first European season. But I think Jude Thomas and Cal Davies really showed what they're made of. That obviously domestically they ran well, and then their first season overseas, I think for their first trip was to their credit, pretty good, and they held it together pretty well. So I think they're two guys that are going to keep improving not only this season but the seasons to come.
So Callum Davies is in MTC.
So he is, yeah. So he's a good young kid. Obviously a quality athlete as well. So I'm sure he's going to have some big things not only this season but the seasons following as well.
Because we had Sinead on a couple of weeks ago, and we're like, because we mentioned Callum won a race in Queensland, and we're like, is he MTC, Sinead? And she's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that is poor by Sinead. I'll be letting her know about that. He's in the Melbourne Track Club, so yeah, he's a good young guy. So Sinead needs to sort that out.
Just a couple other random questions. Stewy, how's uni going? Where are you up to with that?
So I'm going well. Purely, I've got two more. So starting to be a secondary school PE health and English teacher. So I've got two more subjects, and I'm a qualified teacher. So I just need to find both the subjects have, I think one has a 5-week placement and one has a 6-week placement. So obviously I deferred Olympic year, and then this year I had a pretty long season. So I would have had to come back straight away, had 5 days off, and then spent 6 weeks at a school. So I kind of, after the season I'd had and how hard I'd had to work to get back to near some relatively good form, I kind of, felt like I needed more of a break. So hopefully I'll be able to tick off those 2 placements at some point next year. Maybe one early next year in the first semester of school, and then finish my teaching, and then obviously one day have to get a real man's job, and when running's done, start teaching at a school. How
many placements have you done so far, and do you enjoy them?
Yeah, so I think I've done 3 or 4. I do enjoy them, but it's a different grind getting up. So I was having to get up because I'd have to drive 45 minutes to school as well. So I'd get up at training at 6 every morning, and then wouldn't get home and train at 5:30. So it's definitely a tough grind, and it definitely shows guys that work full time what they're able to achieve with their training is pretty admirable and pretty amazing to see, because I was doing it for 4 weeks, and by the 4th week I was pretty tired.
There you go, Moose. See how hard it is being a teacher?
Mate, I was about to say, and you're only a teacher and you don't do anything through the day. It's like, gee. Anyway, Melbourne Cup Carnival. Geez, you were on socials a lot. You're a pin-up now. You do some modelling.
No, I wouldn't say modelling. Unfortunately, I'm not quite good enough looking for that. But it was the opportunity came up to be involved with the obviously the Caulfield races and the Melbourne Racing Club, and obviously we train on Caulfield. It's where we do a lot of thresholds throughout the year, and I like all sports, horse racing. I like watching as well. So to get to go and be involved in an event like that was pretty cool to be involved, and also a good way to kind of finish the season as well and do all the social things you don't get to do, especially in the European season. You're pretty much locked in focus, so you're not often doing too many fun things. So to get to a couple of the race days was pretty nice.
How does that come about, Stewy? Like who contacts who for you to become an ambassador there?
So I think they just reach out and they just say, we'll see if you're interested. They might see some that maybe I don't even see myself, that they think maybe I could be all right doing it. I'm not from a big horse racing background or anything either, so I wasn't sure. But once they made the offer and kind of was like, oh, would you like to be involved? It was pretty easy for me, especially I live close to Caulfield as well. So to get involved in such a big Melbourne event like that was pretty easy choice and cool to be involved in.
And like the golden ticket, you're able to go into any marquee there you want?
Yeah, it was nice. It was made for a big day though, because I get up and have training in the morning, and then I'd be quickly rushed to try and get to the track by 12. And then you're in any marquee, unlimited food and drink, which when you have it for 6 or 7 hours, it kind of feeling pretty rough by the end of the day. But as I said, it was awesome couple of days.
Well, that's about it from me. Moose, you got any more questions for Stewy?
Just a real nerdy one.
Yeah.
So Gus actually lives around the corner from our store, Stewy. He's up in the real plush Newtown area, Geelong West, and he dropped off a pair of your spikes. I think they were from World Champs. You put a signature on them. Very, very generous of both of you. We're finding the right spot for them, the right cabinet. But I noticed the pins you've got in the shoe, they vary between like needles and pin spikes and different lengths. Is that on purpose? Do you always do these sort of different combinations?
No, so the spikes actually won the final in Eugene when I was 9th. So I think I'd wore them for the semi as well. So I think they'd been pretty much banged up through those 2 races. But I generally prefer putting in the Christmas tree spikes. I don't really like the normal ones. So if I have enough Christmas trees, I'll chuck full Christmas trees in. But I think, at championships, it gets a little bit harder when you're going through rounds. You kind of will lose a few, so occasionally they fall out, or occasionally a few get pretty banged up. So you kind of just swapping in and out with what spikes go in. But I'm actually not sure what I had in those ones that I sent your way. But I'm sure generally there is a mix between both depending on what I have available.
Yeah, okay, that's good, because we're all you had everyone in all the staff are going and changing all their spikes out to be like yours, because there's some secret in it.
And Moose, didn't you rip the sizing out of it as well?
What? Oh yeah,
because you were trying to find the size.
Yeah, that's right. I couldn't find the size. You ripped the tag off, right?
Yeah, so I actually always rip the tag off, just because in spikes I don't wear socks. So when I get them, I kind of just take that little side thing out, just because I just really don't want it rubbing against my foot, so I'll kind of remove it first thing I do when I get the spikes. So they were actually size 11s, but obviously didn't have the tag because I'd taken them out pre-race.
Size 11, good. This is good stuff. This is good content.
All right, well, I think that's it for me, Moose. I don't have anything else to cover. I think the agenda's done. What do you got coming up, Moose, this week?
Just a tough week in retail, mate, this week. So I'll slave away. I'll be in there just trying to win some hearts of the local community.
Mm. And you, Stewy, anything exciting happening this week?
Just trying to put together another good week of training, obviously, traveling to Japan and whatever. It's nice to be home and just having a normal Melbourne week. So I'll just try and, get through a good week of training and try and move on to the following week as well.
And Christmas, you're heading home, and are you going to be doing the Christmas carnivals again?
So I'll head home for just under a week leading into Christmas, which will be great. I'll get to see obviously all my mates I grew up with on King Island. Hopefully play some golf down there, which is always fun. And then I'll definitely be doing the Christmas carnivals again. As I always say, I think they're the funnest races we get to do all year. The atmosphere is amazing. Tasmanians love Tasmanian guys running as well, so it's an awesome atmosphere being a local athlete. Hopefully I can kickstart my season there, and it'll hold me in good stead leading up, especially with World Cross not too far away following the carnivals.
Have you ever been down there, Moose, for any of the Christmas carnivals?
Nah, not to Tassie.
They are cool. I went down in 2005, 2006, did Latrobe and Burnie, and it is a really cool atmosphere because they have the bike races going as well. It's great atmosphere.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, thanks, Stewy, so much. We appreciate you coming on. You're such a great ambassador for the sport and very generous with your time. So all the best for the next few months. And, hopefully we can get you on maybe after the domestic season before you head overseas just for a bit of an update.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, boys. Thanks a lot for having me on. It's been fun.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Chat to you next week, Moose.
See you, mate.
See ya. Lululemon supports you while you support Movember. Discover their Movember collection at lululemon.com.au.